In 1921, Denmark watched in disbelief as a woman stood in court, accused of murdering babies, children she had promised to protect. She showed no clear motive, no consistent remorse, and no explanation that made sense. When the verdict came, it was so severe that it forced the country to confront a question it had avoided for decades. How many children had been lost simply because no one was watching? Her name was Dagmar Overbye, and for years she was trusted with the lives no one else wanted. Dagmar Overbye was born in 1887, and from an early age her life followed a troubled path. As a child, she was already drifting on the edge of the law. At 12, she was sent away from her family. By her teenage years, she had been returned home, sent out to work as a servant, and soon after convicted of theft. In 1909, she served her first prison sentence. Long before the murders, Dagmar Overbye had already learned how to live unnoticed by society, present but unaccountable. Her personal life was marked by instability and loss. She gave birth to several children over the years, through brief relationships and a short marriage. Some of the children died under unclear or suspicious circumstances. One child died while living with relatives. Other, she later admitted, was deliberately abandoned. By the time she moved to Copenhagen around 1915, death had already followed her closely. In the capital, Overbye found opportunity. She settled in working class districts and opened a small candy shop, blending into everyday life. But behind that ordinary facade, she began something far more disturbing. Through newspaper advertisements, she contacted unmarried mothers, women who had just given birth and saw no way forward. Society offered them no support, only shame. Dagmar Overbye offered a solution. She claimed she could arrange adoption. For a cash payment, she would take the newborn, promising to place the child with a respectable family. There were no papers, no authorities involved, no oversight. The mothers trusted her because they had no one else to trust. They handed over their babies, often the same day they were born, and walked away believing they had done the best they could do. Most of those children were killed the very same day. Between 1913 and 1920, Dagmar Overbye murdered at least 9 infants, possibly as many as 25. Some were suffocated, others were drowned. Some were burned in her stove. Bodies were buried, hidden, or reduced to ash. Among the victims was one of her own children. During interrogations, she would later admit to killing 16, but evidence could only confirm 9. What made the crimes even more chilling was their consistency. The pattern never changed. A newspaper ad, a desperate mother, a payment, a baby, and then silence. For years, no alarm was raised. The children were meant to disappear into new lives. The mothers never returned. Authorities never followed up. Even when Dagmar Overbye herself was briefly imprisoned again for theft in 1918 and 1919. No one questioned what had happened to the children she had taken in. The entire system had failed them. The case only came to light because one mother changed her mind. In 1920, Caroline Aagesen placed an advertisement seeking adoptive parents for her newborn daughter. Dagmar Overbye responded as she had so many times before. The baby was handed over, but the next day, Aagesen felt overwhelming regret and returned asking to see her baby. Dagmar Overbye told her the baby was already gone and claimed she couldn't remember where she had sent her. The story didn't add up. Aagesen contacted the police. When officers searched Overbye's apartment on Inghavevej, they found the baby's clothes. Then they examined the stove. Inside were burned bone fragments and a skull. Tiny remains that left no doubt about what had happened. The discovery sent shockwaves through Copenhagen. Dagmar Overbye was arrested and the case moved to court. First in the city court, then in Østre Landsret. The trial dominated newspapers and public conversation. Witness after witness revealed horrifying details. Medical experts testified that Overbye was not insane. She had possibly used substances like ether or naphtha, but she knew what she was doing. Even her partner's role remained unclear. Had he received money from her and disliked children, but his involvement was never fully proven. In court, Overbye shifted constantly. At times cold and detached, at other moments desperate and resigned. Her defense argued that she was a product of a broken society, a tool used by indifferent parents, and a system that abandoned vulnerable women and children. The prosecution rejected this completely. After days of intense testimony, the verdict was clear. Dagmar Overbye was found guilty of all 9 murders and sentenced to death, the first woman in Denmark to receive such a sentence since 1861. The verdict was not appealed, but it was never carried out. King Christian X refused to allow the execution, stating that in modern Denmark, women should not be put to death. Her sentence was commuted to life imprisoned, with the condition that she would never be released. Dagmar Overbye died in prison in 1929. Yet her case did not end with her death. The trial forced Denmark to confront uncomfortable truth. Public debate shifted away from the woman alone and towards the society that had enabled her. The absence of regulation, the lack of support for single mothers, and the invisibility of children born out of wedlock were all exposed. In 1921, Denmark passed the Care Child Supervision Act. All children born outside of marriage were placed under the public supervision. The law remained in effect for decades and changed how the country approached child welfare. Dagmar Overbye became more than a murderer in the public memory. She became a warning, because her crimes did not happen in darkness alone. They happened in the gaps society chose not to see. And for years, those gaps swallowed children whole.